On the third anniversary of our relationship, Vincent transferred $1.43 to me, but sent $1.63 million to his first love. I didn't accept the money, and he accused me of being materialistic instead. I transferred money to Selena because I was worried she was struggling, not because I still have feelings for her. Isn't my mom's support enough for you? Do you even lack money when you're with me? This was supposed to be my final test for you. Pass it and we get married. You've disappointed me so much. I broke up with him, without hesitation. He immediately turned around and proposed to his first love. 5 years later, we ran into each other at a luxury hotel in Atlantic City. His family business was on the verge of going legitimate, and Selena was hanging on his arm, looking elegant in a custom designer gown. When he saw me digging through the trash can, covered in mud, he frowned in displeasure. Emma, you turned down $1.43 million back then. Even if you dig through 10 garbage cans now, you'll never dig up that much money, right? Even if you become a beggar and play the pity card in front of me, I won't soften up and take you back. I ignored him. The precious seashells my son had collected while clamming had been tossed into the trash by his Don dad without a second thought. The little guy was throwing a tantrum, so I had to get them back quickly. In the hotel lobby, Vincent walked in slowly with Selena on his arm. His perfectly tailored suit accentuated his tall, straight frame, and every movement exuded the easy confidence of a successful man. People around quickly recognized him and crowded over with forced smiles. Don Vincent? I can't believe you're also attending this summit. You got your family business legalized in just 5 years. What an impressive young achiever. You're also here to court that big shot today, aren't you? Vincent nodded slightly, and the crowd immediately understood. After all, most of the people here had come for that same big shot. Someone shifted their gaze to Selena and gushed flatteringly. This must be the future, Mrs. Ricci, right? You two are truly made for each other. Selena immediately leaned closer to Vincent and smiled sweetly as she explained, We're not married yet. We'll have the wedding once the business stabilizes, and we really hope you all can come. Vincent's expression tensed slightly before he forced an awkward smile. We're both busy. We've already committed to each other, so a marriage license isn't a big deal. The crowd erupted into more congratulations. I was a little surprised, though. They still weren't married? Right after we broke up 5 years ago, he had proposed to Selena and announced their engagement in a high-profile way just a few days later. He loved her so much that, logically, they should have tied the knot long ago. Why had he postponed it until now just because of business? What was more, Vincent's mother had been dying for a grandchild back then. Just then, a waiter walked toward me with a stern expression. Ma'am, this is a 5-star resort hotel. Not just anyone can walk in here. He looked me up and down, his disdain completely unconcealed. Digging through trash cans is strictly prohibited. Please leave immediately. I had just come back from clamming with my son, covered in mud with messy hair. I really didn't look like a guest here. I hurried to explain. I'm sorry, something of mine was accidentally thrown into the trash. I'll leave once I find it, and I'll clean up this area too. The waiter cut me off impatiently. Someone dressed like you could never be a guest here. Please leave right now, or I'll call security. His voice was loud enough that more and more eyes around the room began to gather on me. Just then, Vincent happened to glance back. Our eyes met, and he froze noticeably. Emma? The waiter looked at him in surprise. Mr. Ricci, you know her? Vincent's expression quickly smoothed out again, and his tone turned cold. She was a poor student my mom used to sponsor. We're not close. With that, he looked away indifferently, as if even one extra glance at me was too much. It was exactly the same cold expression he had worn when he told me to piss off after our breakup. Seeing this, the waiter reached out and shoved me directly. Get out of here. I've seen your type 100 times. A poor person should at least have some self-respect. Mr. Ricci helped you once. Are you going to leech off him for life? I stepped aside to dodge him and snapped. I already said I'll leave once I find my things. I'll pay for any damage I cause, full price. He snorted sarcastically. Pay? You? He pointed to the trash can beside him. Do you know what this is? Custom made by an Italian designer, $10,000 apiece. Can you even afford that? Stop running your mouth here. Every single thing in this place is worth more than anything you poor trash could ever imagine. With that, he reached out again to grab me. Enough. Vincent, who had already reached the elevator, suddenly turned around for some reason. He walked over expressionlessly, his eyes cold. What will it take to get you to leave? Or are you still bitter about the 1.43 million I transferred to Selena? Vincent impatiently pulled out his phone and tapped quickly. Fine, I'll transfer it to you right now. Take the money and disappear. Don't ever show your face in front of me again. I've only ever loved Selena. Those 2 years with you were just me running away from my feelings for her. This money is enough for you to start over. Find a guy who's actually on your level and stop wasting your time on me. Suddenly, his movements froze. Your card is frozen? You actually became a deadbeat. It clicked for me immediately. He was transferring money to the old card I used to receive sponsorship funds back then. After I got married, I only used my husband's card. Of course, that old one had been frozen long ago. Turns out, the image he had of me really wasn't great. I was a gold digger and a pauper before, and now I had apparently upgraded to being a deadbeat too. I don't need your money. My tone was flat. I really couldn't be bothered explaining. His voice turned colder. You've fallen so low that you're digging through trash, but you still won't accept help. I frowned in confusion. We broke up 5 years ago. We're strangers. There's no reason for me to accept your help, is there? I paused before adding, really, don't transfer me any money. I don't need it. If my husband found out someone had sent me money, he would interrogate me nonstop. If he dug up this whole mess with Vincent, he'd probably stay jealous for an entire month. Vincent stared at me in obvious shock before chuckling. Emma, I think you've got the wrong idea. I'm only sending you money because I pity you. Don't worry, I absolutely have no feelings for you anymore. After saying that, he stared at my messy, muddy appearance for a long moment. His eyes slowly turned complicated. You've ended up like this now. Maybe the breakup really broke you. That's partly on me. You won't take the money because you want me to feel guilty forever, don't you? I was speechless. How did I never notice how narcissistic he was when we were dating? Seeing this, Selena immediately tried to soothe him gently. Vincent, she was a top medical student after all. She's capable, so it can't be that hard for her to find a job and support herself. She ended up like this purely because she's lazy and unambitious. You could tell even back then. Her family was poor, and she could have paid her tuition with part-time work, but she just took your mom's sponsorship for granted. That just proves she's always been poor and lazy. Selena. I cut her off sharply. I paid back every cent of that sponsorship, principal and interest included. Watch your mouth. Selena was stunned by my outburst. Then she tugged on Vincent's sleeve sullenly. Forget it, Vincent. She's so proud. Your good intentions will just be taken as an insult. Let's just leave her alone. My business is none of either of your concern. I turned away coldly and continued digging through the trash. Suddenly, a bag of colorful shells caught my eye. I breathed a sigh of relief and reached for it, but Vincent suddenly grabbed my wrist hard and yanked me to my feet. Emma, you turned down 1.43 million back then. Even if you dig through 10 trash cans now, you'll never get that kind of money, right? Even if you become a beggar and try to gain my pity, I still won't soften up and take you back. I was speechless. After all these years, he still thought I broke up with him over that 1.43 million? Back then, Selena left without a word to study abroad, and that sudden breakup crushed him. It nearly destroyed him. Vincent's mother asked me to look after him. To repay her for the sponsorship, I stayed by his side and helped him through it. After that, we naturally got together. But ever since Selena returned to the country, he had grown cold toward me. He ignored my calls and never replied to my messages. On our 3rd anniversary, he transferred me $1.43 and told me to buy my own gift. What was such a cheap gesture if not a hint for me to leave on my own? The funniest part was that I still couldn't bring myself to let go. I only gave up completely when Selena sent me that provocative message. Didn't he already know that? I stared at the hand clamped around my wrist and said calmly, Vincent, I'm really happy now, and I never once wanted to come back to you. You can rest easy. I tried to pull my hand away, but he didn't budge an inch. What was he doing? At this point, it really looked like he was the one who couldn't let go of me and kept harassing me. Didn't you say it yourself? Don't come crying back to me after we break up. I've remembered that this whole time. He narrowed his eyes at me, as though he couldn't believe I was this ready to walk away. To erase all his doubts once and for all, I added, I'm already married. My husband has a bad temper. It wouldn't be good for anyone if he sees us pulling at each other like this. He released my hand abruptly, shock written all over his face. You actually dared to marry someone else behind my back? He frowned deeply. Where is your husband? What kind of man is he if he let you end up like this? I didn't say anything. Honestly, I didn't know. He was always busy. Maybe he was meeting some Don or a congressman, or maybe he was out kindly feeding sharks in the ocean. He suddenly snorted. I almost fell for your trick. What? You're trying to make me jealous by saying you're married. Even if you say you have a kid, I don't care at all. He didn't need to say it out loud. I knew better than anyone that he only ever had space for Selena in his heart. But he was the one who confessed to me first. I asked him over and over again if he was truly over Selena, and I only agreed to date him after he firmly told me he had forgotten her long ago. So had I turned into the clingy, scheming stalker in his version of the story? I shrugged indifferently. Believe whatever you want. Selena took a dramatic half-step back. Vincent, this place smells terrible. Let's get out of here. She clearly doesn't appreciate our help anyway. But Vincent's gaze stayed locked on me, showing no sign of leaving. Selena shot me a cold glare. It's just cutting off your nose to spite your face. Tell you what, we're meeting an investor today, and we're short a waitress to serve drinks. If you're willing to take the job, I'll pay you $50,000. That should be enough to cover a whole year of living expenses for someone like you, right? Vincent finally reacted. Emma, you're just too stubborn. You won't take free money. So, at least accept payment for work. I almost laughed from sheer anger. Are you two out of your minds? I don't have time to play your rich people's charity game. Just get the hell away from me. To put things into perspective, I had already turned down several important surgeries just to squeeze out 3 days off and take my son on vacation during summer break. And they actually wanted me to serve drinks? How ridiculous. My repeated refusals made Vincent's face turn livid. Even the always elegant Selena couldn't help rolling her eyes. The crowd around us immediately burst into chatter. Mr. Ricci, this woman is poor and stubborn. How can you let her wait on our honored guest? Honestly, just call it off. If she offends someone, we'll all have wasted our trip today. The waiter panicked and immediately called for security. Hurry up and get her out of here. The presentation is about to start, and the distinguished guest staying in the penthouse suite could come down any minute now. What? The suite I was staying in? While I stood there stunned, the waiter glared at me through gritted teeth. Ma'am, everyone here today is a prominent figure from the East Coast, especially the young heir of the Montague family. He even brought his wife and child with him. This is the biggest event our hotel has ever hosted. On a normal day, I'd turn a blind eye if you were digging through the trash. But not today. Making a scene here will ruin our hotel's reputation among high society. I'm just a lowly waiter. I can't take the blame for this. I beg you, just leave. The security guards, who had remained relatively restrained until now, immediately stepped forward and began dragging me out by force. I shook them off. I'll leave by myself. Seeing that I was finally going, everyone in the room let out an audible sigh of relief. Wait a minute, Vincent suddenly shouted, stopping me. His gaze locked onto the seashells in my hand. The hand hanging at his side clenched into a fist so tightly that his knuckles turned white. Emma. His voice was rough and hoarse. Why don't you understand yet? I don't need these seashells anymore. I looked down at the shells in my palm, and my thoughts drifted back to the past. The year he broke up with Selena, the Ricci family began sponsoring me. Back then, Vincent wandered through life like a zombie. He would sit on the beach all day staring out at the ocean, not crying, not laughing, just empty inside. Vincent's mother worried about him constantly, so she asked me to check on him whenever I had time. I took her request seriously. I would sit beside him on the beach for entire days, simply keeping him company. Once, he got swept out by a wave. I dragged him back to shore with every ounce of strength I had, then collapsed from exhaustion and passed out. He held me and cried like a child. Half conscious, I grabbed a seashell from beside me and held it out to him. Vincent, from now on, every time I give you a shell, you have to smile for me, okay? He nodded through red, teary eyes and smiled. From that day on, every time I went to the beach, I collected handfuls of seashells just to coax a few more smiles out of him. So many years had passed that I had almost forgotten this memory entirely, if he hadn't brought it up today. Seeing me silent and seemingly lost in memory, Selena suddenly laughed out loud. That box of shells in Vincent's room was thrown away years ago. You don't actually think you can win him back with this childish trick, do you? Vincent was just humoring you back then with that little game. You actually took it seriously and remembered it all these years. Vincent glanced at me sideways, his tone cool. Emma, Selena and I are getting married soon. There's nothing between us anymore. Not even close. I couldn't be bothered to argue anymore. I turned and walked toward the elevator. Just then, the phone in my pocket rang. I was about to answer it when the waiter suddenly snatched the phone right out of my hand. He flipped suspiciously through the iPhone, his voice dripping with contempt. How could someone like you afford an expensive phone like this? Isn't it stolen? I froze on the spot. This was beyond absurd. They were clearly desperate to find any excuse to frame me. I glared at him, but he avoided my eyes and darted a quick glance at Selena instead. Forcing my anger down, I said through gritted teeth, "This
is my
phone." Selena chuckled lightly, as though she were enjoying a show, and motioned for the waiter to hand it back to me. "If you say it's yours, then unlock it and prove it." I tried using my fingerprint, but the mud on my hands prevented the phone from recognizing it. I tried face recognition next, but that failed too, because my messy hair was covering my face. Just as I was about to enter my passcode, the hotel manager, who had rushed over after hearing the commotion, snatched the phone away decisively. "Take the phone to the front desk for safekeeping and immediately contact the hotel guests to confirm whether anyone has lost a phone." Then he turned and ordered the security guards, "Call the police right now." A second later, Vincent suddenly spoke up to stop him.
"Wait."
Out of respect for me, "Let's let this go." Selena immediately chimed in, "I'm a lawyer, and stealing a phone this valuable carries at least a 2-year sentence. Everyone can see she's not in her right mind. Maybe she just made a mistake in a moment of weakness." "I didn't steal it." I cut her off sharply. "Since you're a lawyer, you should also know that false accusations can carry a 2-year sentence too." Hearing this, the hotel manager only became more determined. He immediately signaled for security to restrain me and dialed the police himself. Just then, the elevator doors opened. The moment he saw me, the 3-year-old little boy inside the elevator opened his arms and ran straight toward me with tear-streaked cheeks. I crouched down and held the seashells out to him, but Selena suddenly slapped them right out of my hands. "Emma, are you crazy? Trying to abduct a child in front of all these people?" The little boy immediately burst into frightened tears. Selena quickly picked him up and soothed him gently. "She's a bad woman. She's not your mommy. I'll take you to find your mommy." The boy struggled desperately in her arms. "I want mommy. I want mommy." Seeing my son's red, tear-streaked face made my heart twist painfully. "Let go of my son. He's dressed head to toe in designer clothes. How could he possibly be your son?" Vincent roared furiously. I struggled desperately to reach him, but the security guards pinned me down so hard that I couldn't move an inch. Sharp, mocking sneers immediately broke out around me. "Crazy woman. She claims any child she sees is hers. Just call the police and lock her up. Can we really let a lunatic like this run around freely? She'll probably kill someone or burn down a building one day." "Mommy. Mommy." My son stretched his little hand toward me, his voice already hoarse from crying, but no one believed he was calling for me. Everyone simply assumed he was lost and looking for his mother. Swallowing my heartache, I struggled while coaxing him softly, "Baby, don't cry. Mommy found your shells. I'll give them to you soon. I was just about to touch his tiny hand when the security guards shoved me down harder, roughly twisting my arms behind my back to restrain me. Vincent let out a deep sigh before suddenly pulling me away from the guards. I'll handle this. Wait for me outside. The meeting will be over soon, and I'll come find you. As he spoke, he dragged me toward the exit. Let go of me. Vincent, don't make me hate you. I kept turning back to look at my son. He looked up at me with sniffling sobs, his little mouth puckered into a sad pout. But Vincent ignored me completely and continued dragging me away.
Ding.
The elevator doors suddenly opened again. A tall, straight figure stepped out. A perfectly tailored charcoal gray suit outlined his flawless build, and he radiated an innate air of aristocratic elegance. Mr. Montague. Everyone immediately bowed respectfully and greeted him. The moment I met his deep, dark eyes, a wave of grievance flooded through me. Why did he have to arrive so late? Darling. My son immediately stretched out his little arms and dove toward him. Daddy. Vincent froze completely, muttering in disbelief. You called him darling? What is he to you? He's my husband. Now, let me go. Right now. Vincent snorted as though he had just heard the funniest joke in the world. Emma, are you so desperate to get married that you've gone insane? The Montague family would never accept a poor nobody like you. Damien Montague's cold gaze swept over him. Vincent nodded politely. Mr. Montague, this is my ex-girlfriend. She had a breakdown after we broke up. I'm very sorry if she offended you. Before he could finish speaking, Damien strode forward and pulled me directly into his arms. The mud all over my body instantly stained his charcoal gray suit, and my dirty hands from digging through the trash left smudges all over his chest. But he didn't care in the slightest. He only held me tighter. Selena stiffened in shock and instinctively loosened her hold on the child. Damien instructed his assistant to take the boy away. My son looked back at me sadly from over the assistant's shoulder, but the moment he caught Damien's warning glance, he slumped down unhappily.
Mean daddy.
Vincent's outstretched hand froze in midair, his face pale as paper. Mr. Montague, she really is your wife? Damien gave him a cold glance. Is there a problem? Vincent staggered backward, his eyes red as he stared at me. Emma, I searched for you for 5 whole years, and you actually married another man behind my back? All because of that $1.43? I just wanted to make sure you weren't after my money. If you had accepted it, I would have proposed to you on the spot. But what did you do? You only sent 2 words, break up, and disappeared without a trace. I had finally heard enough. It's been years. What's the point of dragging up all this old garbage? I snapped. I was poor, but I never once wanted your family's money. You know exactly why we broke up back then, don't you? You were more than happy to break up with me after Selena sent me that message, weren't you? And now you're blaming me for disappearing? Vincent's expression changed drastically. What message? When was I ever happy about it? I didn't eat or drink for 3 days while searching for you. Cut the act, I interrupted coldly. You proposed to Selena 3 days after we broke up. Don't pretend you didn't know what you were doing. He stared at me blankly for a moment before suddenly laughing bitterly. I did that to force you to come out. You idiot, couldn't you tell? Announcing his engagement to his first love just to force me out of hiding? I laughed in disbelief and shook my head. Whatever. It's all in the past now. I have a family, and you're about to get married too. Let's both move on. A flash of pain crossed Vincent's eyes. He smiled bitterly. Emma, I can't move on. Mr. Ricci. Damien's cold, sharp voice suddenly cut through the room. Pining after another man's wife is not a very good habit. After speaking, he pulled me even tighter against his chest and lightly, but firmly, pinched my waist right in front of Vincent. We'll settle this slowly tonight. Just you and me. I instinctively shrank my neck a little. Oh no. Judging by that expression, he was definitely going to find some way to punish me tonight. It was all Vincent's fault for dragging up this old mess in front of Damien. Damien gently brushed the messy strands of hair away from my forehead, his expression helpless, yet full of affection. Our son wanted seashells. You could have just sent an assistant to pick some up. How did you manage to get yourself into this kind of mess in only a few minutes? Why didn't you just tell them who you were with? Is the Montague name not good enough for you to use? Then he slowly lifted his eyes and swept a cold gaze across the entire room. Or, his voice turned dangerously icy. Has the New York Montague family fallen so far that the Donna of the family can now be pushed around by anyone? His voice wasn't loud, but it sucked all the noise out of the lobby instantly. The air froze solid. The temperature in the room seemed to drop straight to zero. Yet my chest burned, my eyes stung hot, and my voice caught in my throat before I could finally speak. I never let you go public with who I am because I didn't want special treatment. I just wanted to live normally. I didn't want to walk around with a squad of soldiers shadowing me everywhere. I just wanted to go to work like everyone else, save lives, and heal the sick. Damien sighed softly. He brushed the tears from my face with a gentle pat of his thumb. I spoke too harshly. Don't cry. But my tears wouldn't stop. He could only keep murmuring soothing words while wiping them away for me. That was when the crowd finally stirred. People exchanged glances before suddenly turning all their anger toward the hotel staff. What kind of five-star service is this? The staff's attitude is disgusting. Mrs. Montague was simply dressed casually, and you treated her like a beggar? She clearly said she was looking for her child's seashells, but you still tried to throw her out. Cold sweat poured down the hotel manager's forehead. He forced himself to step forward. Mr. Montague, this is all a misunderstanding. We thought this lady. You thought my wife was a thief. Damien's eyes narrowed dangerously. You posted her full-face photo on the Lost and Found notice and publicly called her a thief. Her lock screen is a picture of our entire family. Are all of you blind? The manager lowered his head as sweat streamed down his face. We thought she edited the photo. We'd never met Mrs. Montague before, so we just...
Bang.
Damien suddenly kicked over a nearby trash can. The loud crash made everyone in the room flinch. A mistake is still a mistake. I don't want excuses. His voice was as cold as ice. Right now, you'll apologize to my wife immediately. Otherwise, his gaze swept across the room, a cold smirk tugging at the corner of his mouth. Starting today, no member of the Montague family, or any of our business partners, will ever step foot inside this hotel again. Everyone present knew exactly how heavy that threat was. On the East Coast, no one was insane enough to offend the Montague family over a single hotel. Under the contemptuous stares of the surrounding guests, the manager and waiter finally realized just how badly they had messed up. They bowed deeply toward us. Mr. Montague, Mrs. Montague, we failed to recognize our betters. We sincerely apologize. We'll comp your room tonight. Will this compensation be acceptable? The waiter, who had been arrogant just moments earlier, stared up at me trembling, his eyes filled with desperation. I had met enough people in my life to recognize guilt when I saw it. He was still hiding something. I spoke coldly. As for all the lies you spread about me earlier, you can save those for the police. I won't let my family interfere with this, but I will get the justice I deserve. If the person standing here today wasn't Mrs. Montague, if it had really been an ordinary person, they'd probably already be sitting in a police station right now. Why would they be receiving apologies instead? The sound of approaching sirens grew louder. The waiter suddenly dropped to his knees with a thud, pointing at Selena as he shouted. It was her. She told me she saw Mrs. Montague steal the phone. I was tricked by her. Selena's face instantly turned pale. That's a lie. I've been with Vincent the entire time. When would I have had the chance to speak to a waiter like him? If you're so confident, then pull up the security footage, the waiter shouted desperately, no longer holding back. Selena stepped backward, forcing herself to stay calm. I'm a lawyer. Think carefully before falsely accusing me. Do you understand the consequences? The waiter was immediately struck speechless. When the police entered the hotel, panic completely overtook him. He began pleading with Damien repeatedly. Mr. Montague, believe me. It really was her. She wanted to frame Mrs. Montague. I can testify. Vincent suddenly stepped forward. Selena's face turned deathly white. She stared at him in disbelief, unable to believe he had betrayed her. Vincent looked at me, his expression unreadable. Selena did speak to him, but I don't know exactly what she said. Selena spun toward him, shock written all over her face. Vincent, how can you take her side? Vincent looked at her calmly. Selena, just cooperate with the investigation. If you're innocent, the police will clear your name. Selena suddenly laughed, her voice twisted with bitterness. Vincent, I'm your fiancé. Aren't you supposed to trust me no matter what? Vincent opened his mouth, then let out a helpless smile. 5 years ago, you told me Emma only dated me to repay a favor and for my family's money. I believed you, but now I realize how wrong I was. I ignored what I saw with my own eyes and believed your nonsense instead. So, what if I was wrong? Selena's eyes turned red as she shouted. If she didn't want her family's money, then why did she wait for you at the beach every single day? She only wanted to repay your mother for paying her tuition. Emma never accepted expensive gifts from me. She never accepted my money transfers either, Vincent said firmly. Selena scoffed. Who can't pretend to be humble? She just wanted to become Mrs. Ricci so she could openly spend her family's money. Selena. Vincent slapped her hard across the face. His voice trembled with anger. You're still slandering Emma even now? Do you know what I lost? I searched for her for 5 whole years. You told me she left because she couldn't get my money. Selena clutched her cheek as tears streamed down her face. Vincent, we've been together for 8 years. Does that mean less to you than the 3 years you spent with Emma? What does she have that I don't? Vincent lowered his head and laughed bitterly. You're right. Feelings don't make sense. While they argued, Damien had already finished giving his statement to the police. As the officers moved to take Selena away, Vincent suddenly stepped forward. What message did you send Emma 5 years ago? Tell me. Selena stayed silent for several seconds before suddenly giving him a chilling little smile.
Guess.
Vincent froze in place as he watched her being escorted into the police car. Then he turned and started walking toward me, but Damien blocked his path. Vincent, leave while I'm still willing to speak politely to you. The protection deal is over. From now on, the Montague family and the Ricci family will never work together again. Vincent ignored the warning and stubbornly kept moving toward me. Emma, can we talk? Everything all these years has been a misunderstanding. I've only ever loved you. If I truly wanted to marry Selena, then why would I have waited this long? I no longer had the patience to listen to his excuses. Out of the corner of my eye, I noticed Damien rolling up his sleeves. His face darkened instantly. That was always the sign that he was about to lose his temper. Enough. I cut Vincent off sharply. I'm married. I have a child. Don't you think this is ridiculous? But Vincent only became more agitated. No, it's not too late. I'm not married yet. You can still d. He never finished the sentence. Damien's fist smashed directly into his face. Blood trickled from the corner of Vincent's mouth, but he simply stared at Damien without even trying to fight back. Divorce? Damien's voice was terrifyingly cold as he grabbed Vincent by the collar. You're telling my wife to divorce me right in front of me? His eyes turned icy. Or maybe you should kill me first. If I'm dead, then you'll finally have your chance, right? Hit Damien? Who would dare? Damien was the sole heir of the Montague family. On the East Coast, no one touched what belonged to him. 5 years ago, he saved me single-handedly from a gang of thugs. They never even managed to touch a single hair on my head. What chance did Vincent's weak family, constantly begging for protection from others, possibly have against him? I hurried over and wrapped my arms around Damien's neck. Damien, let it go, okay? We finally managed to get away together as a family for vacation. Well, technically my son and I were on vacation. Damien was still here for work. Honey, it's not okay. Damien squeezed my cheek gently, but his eyes remained ice-cold. Someone's trying to steal my wife. Do you really think I'm just going to let that slide? I quietly stepped back. If I didn't let him vent now, he'd probably spend the next 2 weeks demanding reassurance that I loved him more than anyone else. Honestly, I couldn't even blame him. This ruthless man who controlled the entire Montague operation was ridiculously starved for affection and security when it came to me and our son. When Vincent saw how close we were, a vein bulged violently at his temple. He clenched his fist and charged forward. He didn't even manage to touch the hem of Damien's coat before a brutal sidekick sent him flying across the floor. He lay there for several minutes, too injured to even get back up. That's all. Damien smirked contemptuously. Don't even think about touching a single finger of my wife. Not in this lifetime or the next. Vincent looked up at me in agony. Emma. Damien ignored him completely, sweeping me into his arms before growling softly beside my ear. Your punishment gets doubled tonight. The hotel had thoroughly ruined the mood for all of us, so we booked the earliest flight back to New York immediately. Right after we landed, the police called with an update. Selena and the waiter had both been found guilty of defamation. The evidence was overwhelming. They were sentenced to 15 days in jail. But throughout the entire flight home, Damien frowned constantly. He couldn't even focus on building blocks with our son. Emma. He suddenly set one of the blocks down. I can't shake the feeling that I've seen Selena somewhere before. I rolled my eyes. She's a famous lawyer influencer with 100,000 followers. Of course you've seen her before. Not online. Damien rested his chin against his hand, thinking carefully. In person. The night I saved you 5 years ago. I swear I saw her in that alley. Damien became obsessed with finding out the truth. Quietly, he had someone investigate every detail of Selena's life over the last 10 years. When the report finally landed on the table, my entire body went cold. I couldn't stop trembling. It turned out that after I broke up with Vincent, when I was attacked by those thugs in the alley, they hadn't just wanted to assault me. They wanted to destroy my hands so I could never become a doctor. Selena had hired them. All this time, I had believed it was just a random attack. After the thugs were arrested, I never looked into it any further. I never could have imagined that Selena, desperate to have Vincent all to herself, would be cruel enough to completely destroy my future. Damien immediately pulled me tightly into his chest, his voice soft and steady. Emma, it's over now. I'm here. I'll always be here. At those words, I finally broke down completely, sobbing in his arms. After that terrible night, I had spent days locked inside my room, refusing to eat or drink, my mind completely shattered. Damien never once left my side. He stayed with me through every endless, sleepless night. Vincent always called me his salvation, but no one ever knew that Damien was the true light in my life. Damien, thank you for never leaving me, I whispered softly against his shoulder. Our story was actually very simple. Back in college, I was a poor student working 3 jobs just to survive. He was the wealthiest man in our class, born with everything. He once told me he couldn't remember exactly when it started, but every time he saw me walking to class alone, his chest would tighten painfully. Then we met again in that dark alley, and at that moment, he knew he wanted to spend the rest of his life protecting me. Mommy. My little boy came running over on his chubby little legs and wrapped himself around my arm. I want hugs too. Damien grabbed him by the back of his shirt and lifted him up expressionlessly. Time to give Mommy and Daddy some alone time, buddy. Originally, Damien wanted to use the family's influence to make Selena disappear for good, but I insisted on turning all the evidence over to the police instead. In the end, Selena received exactly the punishment the law decided she deserved. Not long after, an anonymous source leaked that Selena's law license was fake. Her live stream account was banned, and the internet exploded with people calling her out. Netizens even dug up the fact that while studying abroad, she had an inappropriate relationship with one of her professors and moved back home after they broke up. I thought the storm was finally over. I returned to my quiet life and work. Then one evening, just as I walked out of the hospital gates, I saw Vincent standing there holding a wooden box. The box was full of seashells, glowing softly in the sunset. His eyes were bloodshot. He pulled one out and held it toward me, his hand trembling. Emma, I kept them all this time. I never threw them away. He forced a shaky smile. Just like old times, I give you this shell, and you smile for me, okay? I didn't stop walking. I passed right by him. Emma, He screamed my name, sobbing so hard he could barely breathe. I can't live without you. Please, forgive me. We loved each other once. We were. Tears splashed onto the seashells. He fumbled desperately to wipe them away, and for just a second, I saw that quiet, broken boy I had first met on the beach all those years ago. But some mistakes were like seashells left behind by the tide. If you didn't pick them up in time, once they were gone forever. I sighed softly. Vincent, just throw all those shells away. We're not children anymore. We don't need things like that now. He shook his head as tears streamed down his face. His Adam's apple bobbed violently, but not a single word came out. After 5 years, I looked at him calmly for the first time. Vincent, the Emma who loved you died a long time ago, in that dark alley. Every time I see you, I remember the ugly laughter of those thugs. I paused briefly before continuing. You have a 4-year-old child too, don't you? Selena's in jail. That child can't grow up without a father. Stop wasting your time on me. His pupils widened violently. He stumbled backwards several steps, nearly collapsing to the ground. Thugs? Child. I didn't say anything else. I simply turned around and got into the car Damien had sent for me. Vincent had always wanted to know what message Selena sent me 5 years ago, hadn't he? It was a video. In the video, Selena smiled brightly and said she was pregnant, while Vincent spun her around happily, overjoyed as he shouted, "I'm gonna be a dad." That child would be a little over 4 years old by now, right? After that day, Vincent never came looking for me again. Not long afterward, news of the Ricci family's bankruptcy shot to the top of the trending searches. After the Montague family withdrew from their partnership, every other business partner followed suit. The Ricci family's entire supply chain collapsed overnight. Alongside the bankruptcy headlines came another shocking piece of news. The Don of the Ricci family had disappeared. Witnesses claimed they saw him alone on the beach, crying and laughing to himself, and no one had seen him since. A week later, I received an anonymous letter. I recognized the handwriting instantly. It was Vincent's. Dear Emma, by the time you read this, I'm probably gone. Our unfinished story. This is the only ending I can give it. Don't blame yourself. You saved me once a long time ago. I was the one who let you slip away. Selena and I never had a child. She told me the video was for a skit at her company's year-end party. She made me act it out with her. I read the letter slowly, then folded the paper into a small paper boat and gently set it onto the ocean. Vincent, I don't love you anymore. But I don't hate you either. I hope you live without regrets in your next life.
So what did we learn today, ladies and gentlemen? First, if someone sends you $1.43 on your anniversary, that is not romance, that is a financial jump scare. Second, if a man needs 5 years, a luxury hotel, a fake courtroom, and a full emotional breakdown to realize he loves you, bro doesn't love you, he's just buffering. Third, never compete with Selena-type people. 1 minute they're lawyers, next minute they're wanted by the internet, police, and probably Google search history. Congratulations. That's not love. That's seasoned to begging for attention after cancellation. And finally, listen closely if your relationship has more misunderstandings than a broken Google Translate, more plot twists than your Wi-Fi during an exam, and more emotional damage than a season final cliffhanger, just log out. Exit the chat. Close the app. Because love is not supposed to feel like. Episode 1, $1.43. Episode 12, Fake Engagement Chaos. Episode 50, Bankruptcy, Jail, Seashell Trauma. Like, subscribe for more emotionally unstable billionaires and medically overqualified ex-girlfriend stories. And remember, if it starts with $1.43, it usually ends with emotional bankruptcy.